What's cracking, world? Yo, it's Big Kedz the Canuck and my guy Nomad from the Nomad Network. Welcome to episode number 2 of the SuperFlex Fantasy Football Show. Technically, episode number 2 might be episode number 3, considering we had our mock draft episode. Here we go, man. We're going to chop it up and talk about what happened this week, how it's going to affect fantasy football, seeing some of you heads filtering in, what it do. Junior, thanks for coming through. Big shout out to the Plankster as per normal. But let's get into things and see where we're at with this whole NFL. But before we do, I'll throw it over to my guy Nomad. Oh, the king of pop. Correction.
Oh yeah, I'll fix that, man. I'll fix that. Ask me what's going on with me. I'd say other than being highly disappointed in my one damn fantasy team, just taking care of Nomad Network business and trying to keep myself busy, man. But holy crap, I got to make some changes because you know what, man? It's the league. It's funny this year, man, because some of the teams that you expected, let's just say, for example, Baltimore, 0-2. You expected them to be at the top of the heap right now. It's a playoff and pretty much a perennial Super Bowl contention team. They're behind the 8 ball right now. Don't know what's wrong with them. Quarterbacking play isn't putting up huge numbers. So I think overall, man, I think fantasy people probably ought to adjust accordingly. I don't know exactly what to say about that and, the exact right answer, but I know every team is out there making some adjustments right now.
And everybody should be, because something you mentioned last week in the last episode was that defenses were going to be a little bit stout, or there's been evidence of some real stout defense out there in the NFL this season. And that's just a fact, right? Like, we're definitely seeing some defensive stances here that might be interesting to take note of. So my personal squad this week put up 46 points with the Houston Texans defense, which was a massive lift for my team. And being a Bears fan, that's a terrible situation. But I also know that the Bears defense put up some really nasty numbers too. So it was an interesting couple of weeks in fantasy football. Fair amount of injuries across the board, to be honest with you. Some up and down play from a lot of players that we'll get into as we go, and definitely fantasy football team owners are kind of looking to see, what's out there, what can they do, how can they pivot moving forward. So I think that's sort of how we'll get through the next little bit with you guys here today.
What would you attribute the bad quarterback numbers to? Would you attribute it more to bad quarterback play or just superior defense? Which way is your mind leaning?
Can I say bad GMing? There's a fair amount of year 2 quarterbacks, rookies to year 2, starting out really trying to get their feet wet. We've got Trevor Lawrence, who's no longer a year 2 quarterback, but again, he's trying to get his feet wet and really feel his way through. I expect a big jump for him at some point this season, but we're not there yet.
Whoa, wait a minute. I gotta stop you right there. That you have to circle, because that is pretty bad. I'm talking about what's the quarterback in Jacksonville? Trevor Lawrence. That is pretty bad, man. He's not supposed to be trending in that direction. Everybody, and I mean everybody, expected him to be putting up some decent numbers and putting some wins. I mean, it is bad. So
he's got a wide receiver core there, right? Like the number of excuses, unfortunately, are a little bit less this time around. Jacksonville's going on 0-2 right now. And like I say, the receiving core over there is not to be trifled with. They've got some really nice receivers. Christian Kirk is a good receiver. He's a little speedball. We've also got Brian Thomas Jr., fresh rookie this year, and I think there's a whole lot of upside there. I think who's the final guy always escapes me, but I think it's Gabe Davis. I think Gabe Davis is the odd man there. But in any event, they've got a pretty solid wide receiver core. I'd like to see a little bit more from them. The running backs are great too. So in my opinion, in this scenario, their question marks are probably more on the defense than any place else.
Yeah. I mean, you still have to highlight the quarterback play. There's no excuse.
Yes, with last week, Brian Thomas Jr. and Christian Kirk had a pretty solid week in fantasy football. This past week, definitely for Christian Kirk, was a down week. Definitely for Trevor Lawrence, down week. And I'd probably have to say the same thing for Brian Thomas Jr., although I have not checked his numbers to actualize that. Let me take a peek here. But yeah, I don't know if it's defense or what, but yeah, well, in your situation, it's injury moving forward too. Like that's not to be trifled with either.
Well, we'll talk about that, but I believe there is a through line in the low quarterback numbers and the minimal, I would say, less than average explosive plays thus far going into week 3. I would say it's a lot of shell defenses being played, a lot of too high safeties, a lot of teams playing, we'll give you something underneath and we'll run and tackle you. But we're not giving up the big play. And I think that's starting to really become a theme. It's old news to us Chicago Bears fans. We're used to seeing too high safety looks in Chicago with the defenses that we've had over the years. But I guess to other people around the league and other, fans, that's part of the big part of the reason is that shell coverage and not giving up explosive plays. This is a smart defensive strategy, very smart if you have the players to run and tackle and keep you in games. But yeah, I believe that's the main culprit. And you can probably say some pretty shoddy quarterback play to throw in there as well.
Well, again, like I said, these young guys have to get acclimated, and what these defenses are doing, or these defensive coordinators are doing, is challenging them to play the position. Be a quarterback, right? We're not letting anything else happen here. Be a quarterback. And unfortunately, for the first 2 weeks of football, hasn't been a whole lot of positive quarterbacking. So we'll see. Now, I say that, and then we look at some of these guys who are actually just stepping into their own, like Kyler Murray.
No, yeah, I mean, I expected some growth to come with him this year. What is this, his second year with his offensive coordinator? Yeah, you expected to see some growth there. But what's a huge, huge surprise? This has probably been the biggest surprise in the league going into week 3. These first 2 weeks, the Clint Kubiak and the New Orleans Saints have been absolutely dominant on the offensive side. I mean, absolutely putting up 44 points on Dallas in their place.
91 points in 2 weeks. That's
insane.
Crazy.
It's insane.
That's crazy. And I can pull my foot out of my mouth now and say that I didn't know what the heck was going on offense over in New Orleans for 2024. I didn't think good things were happening. I was wrong, and I will say that many a time as we move forward with this show. I'm just saying. But in this scenario, I was wrong. I don't know what they're feeding Derek Carr, but he's doing stuff. I don't know what they're feeding Alvin Kamara, but he's doing stuff too. And let's not forget Rashid Shaheed either, right? Like he's putting up some nasty numbers over there. So pay attention to what's popping in New Orleans. I really never thought that this would be a thing, but here we are.
Remember when I highlighted? I think he was part of the Big Board show. Rashid Ali, what is his name? Rashid Ali. When I highlighted him on the running back show, when we were looking at those prospects, and everybody was like, "No man, where you finding these dudes at?" I'm like, "This dude, wherever he goes, he's going to be an explosive player." And so, thus far, he's true to form, man. Really, really big, huge fantasy asset for somebody.
Yeah, that's somebody to sort of look at there. I'm not sure how draft or how well rostered he is, but we'll take a look at that as we go. Lots of interesting stuff this week with with football, as well as within the injury case scenarios for many a team. But let's start with injuries, I suppose. So, your guy Tua Tagliova. Tua got to get himself a slip and slide.
Man, dude, I'm so glad I went in there and grabbed myself some Pepto before this show, man, because just the name alone, I don't even need to see the image. Just the name alone makes my stomach turn. I mean, Lord, even if he didn't get injured, his performance, oh my Lord, you're talking about, come on, man. But by the way, on the real side, human side of things, I wouldn't wish what he's going through on my worst enemy. Number one. Number two, I'm never the type to tell a man what he needs to do, and I won't allow any other man to tell me or any other person to tell me what I need to do. I know damn well what I need to do with myself in my life. But what I would suggest to Tua, without saying that word, is think about life. Think about everything else, man. Thinking about having children, grandchildren, being able to move around and playing with them, man. He's in some dangerous territory, in my opinion. And be quite honest with you, man. It's the love of your life. Football was the love of my life, and that was the hardest thing I ever had to do, was hang up the cleats and put the pads down. And it was difficult for quite some time for me. And so I understand, that pride and passion and that love for something you've been doing since you were a child. But I don't think people his age are really emotionally mature enough to understand what he's putting at risk. And I would, if it's left up to me, if I was his friend and I was in his ears, like, dog, I want you around for the rest of our life, man, so we can go hang out, kick it, man. You putting too much at risk. That's just bottom line truth about how I feel about it, and that's that.
Wish I could argue with anything you said, man. I cannot, and it harkens me back to Mike McDaniels, who's becoming one of my personal favorite coaches in the league. I think the guy is I don't know. He's a special guy in my opinion. Just a hilarious straight shooter, and when this all went down, as Tua was walking off the field, Mike grabbed him and actually kissed him on the forehead. There's like a picture of it. Kissed him on the forehead, and what he said to him was, "You'll always be the quarterback of your family." Right? And it wasn't really, he wasn't trying to be rude, but he wanted to impart to Tua that, this might be the end. This might be a situation that you can't come back from. Considering your injury history, regardless, we love you. You're always our quarterback, but the most important decision you can make is your family decision.
Keep all kinds of life to look forward to, in other words. And I think you just got your first question, Camden Christensen. Once he says he's got Richardson, Gibbs, J.K. Dobbins, Ramondre Stevenson, Chase, Jamar Chase, I assume, Nico Collins, Waddle, DK, as well as a few other trade pieces. He wants to get Garrett Wilson. He wants to know, do you think that's possible? And I would say I would just respond to that really quick and say he's probably rostered on most teams. The only way you're getting him is in a trade. I think the trade value.
That's what he's asking.
You could probably get him. I don't think his trade value is very high right now. So if that's what you want to know, I think you propose the right piece. I think you can get him.
So, I'm just gonna say this now, Camden. Yo, shout out to you, brother. Thanks for representing and taking part in the show. Appreciate the chat and the question. I wouldn't touch your team at all. Your team's kind of disgusting, bro. Garrett Wilson would be a nice addition, but this looks a lot like my squad, except I've got different. Not the SuperFlex league. This looks like one of my squads. Looks like my squad in the Bears Podcaster League, which strangely I'm also losing. What's your record, Camden? Let me know your record, brother. Let me know your record. I bet you if he's 0-2, then he's looking to do some things. But Richardson's had a couple of decent weeks. Got to put that out there. He's putting up decent fantasy football numbers. Jahmyr Gibbs is putting up good numbers these past 2 weeks. J.K. Dobbins, he's been putting up good numbers here too. I wish the rest of his offense was. Ramondre Stevenson, don't touch him with a 10-foot pole. He may wind up the leading running back this season just because the entire New England offense runs through him. Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. Nico Collins, let's say 17 points a week, almost guaranteed. Rough week last week, but still, I still think he put up 17 points. But Waddle without AJ Brown, with AJ Brown. Oh, sorry. Waddle's the guy I would look to trade it if at all possible. If you can put something together specifically with Waddle and maybe
Tyreek Hill might be a get if you can. I believe with Tua, if Tua is not going to be, I don't know what his prognosis is going to be. I know everybody around the league and everybody in these fantasy leagues are trying to figure out what's his prognosis. Are they going to put him on IR for the next 4 weeks? Because a lot of people have their teams built around Tyreek Hill. And, what are you going to do if Tua's not throwing to him? You expect him to put up same gaudy numbers without him, all that kind of stuff. So the trade possibilities are, I think, pretty electric right now because of some of those things I just said and just the fact that passing numbers are so down.
What he said. So that Tua situation kind of leads to potential for a Tyreek trade. That might be something to look at. Garrett Wilson will be a little bit tough. He hasn't done what he needs to do yet this season, but it's just a matter of time. It's a very smart question to see if you can actually go get him. But Waddle in this scenario, unfortunately, Waddle and Tyreek Hill are going to take some sort of a hit. Their numbers are going to take a hit, and this is coming from a guy who drafted Tyreek Hill number 1 overall over Christian McCaffrey, very specifically. Just put that out there. Speaking of which, anyways,
go ahead, man. You about to do something?
No, you go.
No, I was going to say, and speaking of quarterbacks, man, I'm so glad I picked up Justin Fields as an emergency backup. As one of my later picks in that draft. You know what I mean? I didn't see none of this stuff coming with Tua, but later on, I think he finds his groove with Pittsburgh. I think he's just getting started, getting himself comfortable. It is a new system for him, but eventually he's going to get comfortable. And just those numbers that I know that he can, because he was here in Chicago, I know what he can do when things are right and he's comfortable. And, plus what he'll do on the ground when he doesn't see what he needs to see down in the field. Dangerous option right there. So if you haven't picked up, if Justin Fields is not rostered in any league that you have out there and you have a spot to claim, and there's somebody on your team that's like, all right, I can live without this guy, I think it's a good pickup. Great pickup, as a matter of fact.
Wish I could argue with that one too. I can't. So fact of the matter is Justin Fields is probably not rostered in many leagues, right? I'll just put that out there because the question mark coming into the season was, is it going to be Justin or is it going to be Russell Wilson? It's week 2, no sign of Russell Wilson. I'm sure he's probably going to pitch a fit about this at some point, but it ain't going to be in week 3. I think in week 3, you're going to see a heavy amount of Justin Fields. Who are they? Let me figure out who they're playing. I'll touch base on that a bit later on. When I figure out who are they playing?
No, I'll just go ahead. I don't know. I'm just trying to get to Eternal 305's question for you. He said he wants to know, last week an owner dropped Zamir White. Should I pick him up or go for Quentin Johnson? Zamir White has been low scoring, but he has bell cow possibilities. Number one, I can't remember who the back is in front of him.
There isn't one.
There's a back in front of him. I can't even remember what team he's playing on right now.
There's no back there.
Who's he? What team's he on?
Zamir White is on the Las Vegas Raiders. He's their lead back.
He's their lead back.
He's their lead back. They let Josh Jacobs go.
Wait a minute. It seems like we're missing somebody. It's like somebody help us out, Eternal, because I feel like there's somebody else. I don't know. We could pull up a depth chart if you wanted to, but it seems like somebody else should be in front of him. Yeah. Cam is coming with questions. He said, would you send Dobbins or Ramondre with DK for a Garrett Wilson and a Tony Pollard? That's a good one. I'd be not impressed to give up running backs right now. Hard to find a good running back.
But he's getting back Tony Pollard.
But Tony ain't putting up I don't know.
No, so maybe Dobbins, definitely not Ramondre. Because it's the thing is about the Ravens offense, it runs through Lamar. Lamar just hasn't been putting it down on the ground lately the way he normally does. And when he does, likely less numbers for J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins has never had generally doesn't have numbers like he has over the past couple of weeks. And again, over the past couple of weeks, the Ravens offense hasn't been functioning the way that the Ravens offense normally functions.
Right.
So he's got more touches. I don't think he's a sustainable situation. I think he's something that worked out well for you these past couple of weeks. At some point, they're going to start scoring again, and I don't think it's going to be because of J.K. Dobbins. I'm just saying.
By the way, Eternal 305 answered that question. It's Alex. He's saying Alexander Madison is in front of Zamir White. He's the other guy down there. And Alexander Madison has done nothing but put up above average. He's above average as a running back. He was really good when he was down in Minnesota. I always liked him. He was always doing damage to us. But, yeah, so I think.
So Madison's behind Zamir White. Madison had 3 touches this week.
Oh, wow.
Zamir had 20. Zamir had 9 rushing attempts this week over Madison.
So I had that wrong.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm looking at the depth chart right now.
I would say this to you, Cam. If you pick up Zamir White, make sure there's a really strong qualified person to replace him, because when he like a third back, you need a third back on your roster. He runs so physical. It's just a matter of time before, he doesn't avoid tackles, man. This dude runs head-on collision. He's kind of like Roshan Johnson is in Chicago. He's going to be one of those guys that probably is going to get nicked up here and there. So I just make sure I had a qualified third back.
Yeah, I would do that, Camden. I would do that. I would do that trade though, Camden. Yeah, I would send Dobbins. I would send Dobbins and DK for Garrett Wilson and Tony Pollard for sure. Got to co-sign on that. What it do, Eternal 305, man? Thanks for coming through. Thanks for dropping that question. Appreciate it. Cool. I love the interactivity, man. Love it. The Naj, big shout out to you. Super Flexer, the Naj. What's up? Super Flexer King, Book of Worlds with us too. What it do, you guys? Awesome to have you on. Hey, Patty. Always great to have you. Always great to have you with us. Just giving a little bit of love to those who love us. You know what I mean? Hey, so Raiders don't run much, the Naj says. Well, that's because they actually have Luke Getsy running the show. We kind of know what that's going to look like. But I do think they're going to have to force the ball. They're going to have to put the ball in Zamir White's hands and really give him the opportunity to be that bell cow, because I don't see anything else happening over there.
He's a physical stud, man. This dude is everything you want. If you like physical, just nose busting running backs that is going to get you. I mean, he just not shy away from contact. I'm telling you, this dude, ever since he was at Georgia, I was just like, love him. But man, oh man, he's got to avoid some hits sometimes. He's just really aggressive running that ball.
Whew. Nick Watts. Thanks for coming through and asking a question, Nick. That's a tough one, bruh. Trade Brown for Gibbs. He's currently 0-2. Jahmyr Gibbs is a super stud, but we're talking about a number one wide receiver in fantasy in A.J. Brown. I know he's hurt. Question is, he could be back this week. They're saying either week 3 or week 5. There's a couple of guys like that. I'm dealing with the same pain, and I'm gonna ride it out with A.J. Brown. That's my suggestion to you. If you want to throw the rest of your roster, so I get a better idea what you're sitting with, Nick, at 0-2, I'd appreciate it. Feel free to throw that in the chat. I'll take a peek, but I probably wouldn't be as hasty as letting go of a guy like A.J. Brown. He will be worth his weight in gold as the weeks proceed.
Quentin Johnson is going to keep putting up decent numbers, Eternal, because why? They are so run heavy down. You know what Harbaugh wants to do is really pound you into oblivion. And then when he pulls that ball out on play actions, those downfield targets, man. Quentin's gonna get explosive plays. So I would keep that in mind. I'd be honest with you, I wouldn't even offer him on a trade. I would, even though I would be, I'd be tempted to do a lot of things, but I want to see how consistently they're going to find explosive plays down the field with Quentin Johnson. I got a feeling it's going to be way more where that came from.
Yeah. Geez, I would go Quentin. I think Quentin will put up bigger numbers is all that I'll say. At some point, they have to start to realize that he's the number one wide receiver over there, whether they like him or not, or whether he likes them or not. They put the investment into him. I think he's a great wide receiver. I don't know why this preseason he didn't get a lot of run or media or press, but I think sometimes he's just proven on the field, and I know he hasn't done it up to this week, but let's just hope that moving forward it's something that they continue with. But yeah, sweet. Love the interactivity, man. That was super cool. Shout out to all you guys.
We're going to look at some injuries. Let's see what they got going on here, man.
Oh, man. I don't even want to do that. So many injuries, but we started out with good old Tua Tagovailoa. Who did we touch on? We did touch on who?
No, we didn't. That was it. I think we ended up giving a little speech about Tua, and that's where it stopped.
All right, so let's start a little bit. So Tua, Christian McCaffrey is still out. So Jordan Mason's out there for you guys if you're paying attention. If he's not, he might be gone with the win, considering he was the hot hand for last week. Two more injuries that are of interest here is Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are both out. That also is going to have ramifications on Matthew Stafford and his numbers. So look at that and take that for what it's worth.
King Booker World just gave a very intriguing question. What do y'all think about grabbing Steele? He's talking about the rookie running back,
Carson Steele,
Kansas City. Now listen, from what my last bit of information was, I heard that Pacheco, did he get hurt at the end of that game? And is he?
So Isaiah Pacheco has I believe he broke his fibia. So he broke the leg in his the bone in his leg. Long story short, so he's going to be gone for a while. Needs to be replaced. Another piece to all this, I believe the Kansas City Chiefs have also re-signed Kareem Hunt.
Did they?
I believe so.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, so last I checked today, there was notes confirming that they've been in talks and that there may well have been a signing today for Kareem Hunt. So might be a little bit of a bait and switch. Carson Steele looks good on paper, but we know who Kareem Hunt is. So does Andy Reid. I don't know who winds up starting next week. It's a total toss-up. So if I were you guys, I would pay as much attention as humanly possible to the Kansas City Chiefs press conference on Thursday. You might get an understanding as to who's been practicing or who will be practicing as a starting back.
By the way, you guys, keep firing those questions, man. If we don't get to them right here, right now, we'll get to them at the end of the show. We'll talk about them at the end. So keep firing away.
Oh, wow. George Play 01. What's cracking, George? George has traded away Brian Robinson for Jameson Williams. Thoughts? So
that's a steal, in my opinion. I don't know about.
Is it?
I think the durability of Brian Robinson. I would just say this, man. Even though I think he's going to get a lot of touches, I don't think, especially early in the season with the quarterback being so young, that people are going to be respecting his passing ability. I think they're going to stack the box. I think he had a really good game this week, but I don't see that. I think this is a steal because I think Jameson Williams is a big key to what the Detroit Lions want to do. And I mean, sometimes on the ground, a lot of times in the air. And so I think to me, the value is, I say Jameis Williams that's a ripoff, in my opinion.
I don't know if I would call it that. And it really has a lot more to do with your individual team, George. So, like, if you're hurting in the wide receiver column, this is a steal. It's a ridiculous steal. Really also depends on what kind of what kind of running backs you have to back up my guy Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is currently the number 8 running back in fantasy football. So that's saying a lot. I've run with Brian Robinson over the past couple of years, and he's a quality back. There's outside of the fact that I believe he got shot. You were talking about durability. I think he got shot and came back and really played out these last 2 seasons. I don't expect anything less from Brian Robinson. I also know the organization loves him, so he's definitely going to see touches. He's going to get his run. As long as he can avoid injury, decent back to have. Again, top 10, top 8, number 8 back. But Jameson Williams, he's on an upward trajectory, and it's been a while for him. It's taken him a while to get here, right? It was expected 2 years ago. Didn't happen. He was hurt. Fine. All of a sudden, gambling issue out of the, didn't happen last season either. I think this is a season where he really becomes a guy, especially because teams will be paying a heck of a lot more attention to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, who put up numbers and noise, made some noise last year. So I think Jameson Williams got the ability to just, in a one-on-one situation, take the top off and beat people with routes. He has the ability to do it. Great, like all kinds of upside here. So if you were hurting in the wide receiver room, I think your wide receiver room just got a whole lot better.
King Booker makes a great point too, because I did see Amon-Ra get beat up, and he was hurting in the last part of that game. So I don't know how bad the injury is, but if it's anything that's lingering, Jameson Williams is going to turn into the focal point.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see him. I don't see him missing the next game. I think Amon-Ra will be back, but that's me. Thus far, I don't think there's been any major announcements about that. But he did leave the game hurt. Other folks, good old Keenan Allen with a heel. Our guy Keenan Allen, we'll still be waiting. They're saying either he will play this week or, worst case scenario, week 5. It's going to take him a couple
more. You want to just share your screen right quick?
Why?
I thought you were looking at a list on there.
Not the type that I want to. Not for injuries that I want to share. We've also got Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's got a groin injury. Looking at an expected return potentially again this week, if not worst case scenario, week 5. I'm running with Kenneth Walker, quality back, but injuries happen across the league.
Zach Charbonnet, big, nice piece if you can get your hands on him in some leagues. Because if Walker's out, trust me when I tell you, they're going to run the shit out of the ball with Charbonnet.
And I believe they did this past week when he went down. So definitely, if he's floating around in your waiver wire, by all means, keep your eyes peeled on Zach. But anybody who's interested in a handcuff might have had their eye on Zach Charbonnet already. They do a good job of really integrating him into the offense anyhow. So definitely a quality back to have stashed. Another little bit of injury is also Justin Jefferson. So Double J went down. Hopefully, right along the same lines as Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think he's going to miss next week. Fingers crossed. We'll have to pay attention a little bit more to what whether he actually sees practice this week at all. But that's sort of what the injury case scenario for the week has looked like. I can share this though. All right. So we're just looking at who's leading at the positions in question right now. So as of week 2, Alvin Kamara's holding it down as running back number 1. And I think he deserves a lot of props, and so does anybody who actually went out there and scooped him up. And in this scenario with the Plankster, so shout out to you, Plank. But yeah, Kamara's that whatever they're doing in New Orleans is working. It's basically where I'm at. Whatever they're doing over there, they're feeding Alvin Kamara the rock, whether it's by pass or actually on the ground. And he's toting it. He's doing what he needs to do. He's putting up crazy numbers. Devin Achane is number 2. I just kind of wanted to zero in on the running back position for a second. I think Devin Achane's numbers are going to go up. Again, with the Tua situation, we don't know we don't know how that's going to affect the wide receivers. We can only assume that it's going to negatively affect them to some degree. If that's the case, probably going to run the ball a little bit more, which may mean bigger numbers for Devin Achane or bigger numbers for the rest of that Miami running back room. There's Raheem Mostert out there, Jalen Wright. They may wind up becoming a run team out of the woodwork. So, keep your eyes peeled there. A guy who never gets any props is James Cook. James Cook deserves mad props. He's really driving the Buffalo Bills offense. Have to put it out there. Josh Allen, it's normally a Josh Allen show, but straight up and down, Devin Achane's doing the darn thing.
Hey, Cook can love you, and he can leave you alone too, man. He can put up some weighty numbers, and he can give them right back to you, man. He's got a fumble. I know he had a ball security thing the last couple of years, man, and that kind of, I think to me, I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna keep myself quiet because I might need to make a move in our little fantasy league. I was just about to say something, but I'm gonna shut up. So
okay, perfect. All right. Well, yeah. Just wanted to touch on these top 5. We already touched base with J.K. Dobbins a little bit. Guy we haven't talked about is Breece Hall. Breece Hall's an all-around monster. The only thing that I'm going to say with respect to Breece Hall, outside of the fact that he's a monster over there in New Jersey, is, you might want to take a look at his backup. I believe that's Blake Corum, I think. Yeah. Might be blanking out on who the backup is. But you might want to take a look at the backup because he's going to get a whole lot of run, especially in a scenario where if Breece Hall does succumb to some level of injury, because again, they're gonna work him as the workhorse back, and he does a great job of being a workhorse back. So, in case of injury, you may want to stash yourself that backup running back in New York for the New York Jets.
You know what's beautiful about fantasy and thinking in the big picture, the macro view is if you don't get some of the guys, like especially at running back, if you don't get a couple of the guys that you really had your heart set on, I think the backup play, it's like you might not win in that department for the first 3-4 weeks because they're pretty relatively healthy, but attrition will kick in. And those backup running backs will get tick and they will get numbers. And so to me, that's always been the best value out there in fantasy world is finding those backup running backs because at a moment's notice, boom, next thing you know, a guy's out 4 weeks, 6 weeks. It's just the law of attrition when it comes to running back. You just have to play the long game when it comes to that and always have that guy stash that you think is going to be the first one up. If you could assume who might get injured first, just be thinking about that backup.
Well put, man. And looks like Mo Fugler's already been thinking exactly that because he's got Braylon Allen as his running back, back up to Breece Hall. And it looks like Braylon Allen's already running back 16 in the league or, in the NFL. That's a pretty safe place for him to be at this particular point in the league. So, again, a good guy to keep your eye on. I'm not sure how rostered he is out there. If he's available in your leagues, by all means, take a look at Braylon Allen. I did say Blake Corum before. I was wrong. I'm trying to remember where Blake Corum is. Where did he get drafted to, brother? Do you remember?
That's a good question. I wanted to say, that's a good question. I don't know. I wanted to say he went to San Diego, but I don't think so. Or LA.
Chargers? I think it's the Chargers. I feel like
it wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Yeah. So another running back. Okay. You know what? Let me take a look at wide receivers first. Let me just touch base on wide receivers before I go where I was about to go. So rookie wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. has arrived, y'all. So he basically put up ridiculous numbers this week alongside Kyler Murray, who I believe threw like a perfect game, which is unheard of. And props to both him and Kyler Murray. If you've got him on your team, you're doing quite well. Question is, do you have anybody else from that burgeoning Cardinals offense? Because I think that's about to explode. DK Metcalf's number 2 in the NFL as far as fantasy football is concerned. Man, I always sleep on DK Metcalf. I have to be honest about this. And I think I just suggested that Camden trade DK Metcalf. Shame on me.
You know, DK is, I have to take my hat off to him, because when I look at his skill set, from where he was when he got into the league, you're talking about the level of growth and the maturity of his skill set has been dramatic, man. I mean, he was just a big body who can go up and get you a 50-50 catch. You know, a big body that might catch you a slant and could take it 60 yards. But now his route tree is looking really good. He's sharp, crisp as a route runner. He's catching you can throw pretty much any route on the tree to DK Metcalf. He's rounded out from a pretty damn good receiver to a burgeoning great one. And so DK Metcalf, on a personal note, I'm really taking my hat off to him, because his game has really, really matured.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that entire Seattle offense is a very interesting look, and you can see Jackson Smith and Jigba there at number 7. They're a very interesting look. By all means, both these guys should be rostered for the most part in just about every fantasy football league out there. If either one of them are not, somebody's sleeping. Anyhow, we'll move down to Malik Neighbors at number 3. My guy Malik, man, 127 yards. They're figuring out in New York that they need to just feed this kid the ball and let him cook. I don't think there was much thought needed there. He's that good. If you guys had the opportunity to see any of his college tape, his college film, good Lord above me. Malik Neighbors he's just nasty out there, man. So he's going to continue to put up good numbers, even if he plays for the New York Giants.
I've got a steal out there if you're interested in learning, if you're interested in hearing it.
What's your steal, bro?
I will just talk about this one. And I just know what he's capable of doing, especially when given that opportunity. And, you know, under these circumstances, he can absolutely end up winning this job for the rest of the season. And that's Andy Dalton down in Carolina. If you got a quarterback problem right now and you're not getting the numbers you want out of your quarterback, a very viable option right now is Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's a really good NFL quarterback, not the best NFL quarterback, but I think in a moment's notice, like in a game like this where he's been sitting and waiting for an opportunity, I think he's capable for at least 1 week. Let's just say 1 or 2 weeks. I would roster that dude, and if I have a questionable quarterback situation, I'd start him, because I think he'll put up a 300-yard game. That might sound weird to you because you're a Chicago Bears fan, but just saying.
I am a Chicago Bears fan, and it does sound a little bit weird to me. If you're really hurting, Andy Dalton, it might save the day, but I really wouldn't. I'm not certain of a lot of things in Carolina, man. Like, I'm not certain of their offensive line. They have some wide receivers. Let's see if they will allow Andy Dalton to get them the ball.
I think he's going to be one of the things people talk about this week, because he's every good coach goes out, and when you got a young quarterback that's struggling, what do? You go out and sign a veteran that knows how to play in the league, knows what it means to play with time and play with your feet and really get the ball out to avoid some of the mishaps that most young quarterbacks have. And Andy Dalton is that. He's going to get that ball out to the skill guys, and I'm telling you, they're going to put up some numbers, and it's going to look bad for Bryce Young, but it's going to be a lesson for him that he needs to learn. Be honest with you, I think he's one of those situations where I think he would do himself, the coach and himself, some good by sitting and watching for the first time in his life. You know, he's never really had a chance. He's been playing since he was probably in Pee-wee ball, has never sat the bench and watched for the most part, except for maybe a year in Alabama. But that kid, I don't even know if he sat while he was there. And so I do think he'll rebound and be a better quarterback for it. But I think Andy Dalton will be a good lesson for him, and I think he'll be able to put up some numbers.
All right, I will take your word on that one. Like by all means, he's worth a roster spot if you're hurting. I have Bryce Young on a bench somewhere on one of my fantasy teams this season. I'm a little bit hurting there. Upside is there's better guys floating around than Andy Dalton, so I'll just put that out there. Like a Geno Smith, maybe. I don't know. You know, Geno's not super rostered, but
it's a good call.
He puts up nasty numbers, and I think a lot of folks really thought that was all Shane Waldron. It's not Shane Waldron who did all that. Maybe not. Maybe it was a little bit of both. All I know is Geno's still doing it.
He's another guy that you have to take your hat off to because his game has evolved and really matured at the position. So this really hats off to that guy, man, because he's really, really grown up at the role, man. He's just become a really good NFL quarterback. That's just the bottom line.
King Book of too funny. So the next wide receiver I'd like to talk about is Nico Collins. And I'll talk about him in short because I did touch on it on Nico a little bit earlier on. Nico Collins is good for 17 points a week, y'all. Let's put that out there. If not better than that, week on week. I'll say bare minimum about 17 points. They feed him the ball. CJ Stroud loves that slant. He loves that slant route right to Nico Collins. It's just going to continue on. So he's going to wind up in the end zone on that slant. He's going to wind up in other places, but at the end of the day, it's just going to wind up being numbers for your fantasy team. So by all means, Nico Collins, wide receiver 4, and Devontae Adams, who's wide receiver 5. I got burned by Devontae Adams last season. I was very specific in dodging him this year altogether. I didn't trust what was going on in Las Vegas, nor do I trust Luke Getsy. Still don't. But somehow they are 2-0.
I still don't trust that situation.
Yeah, I think, and there you have it, right? So you're right there with me. They're 2-0. They're putting up 91 plus points this season. Ridiculous numbers. Devontae Adams is working the job. Like he's doing the darn job. The rest of the team is too. Brock Bowers is a man possessed at the tight end position. If for some reason he's floating around, get the rookie, guys. Get the rookie. But very doubtful that he's floating around. Well taken earlier, well taken in your draft. That being the case, shout out to Devontae Adams. He's going to continue to put up good numbers until Luke Getsy loses his mind, which will probably be in game 4.
Can I throw out a trade possibility that people may be interested in? Because I think it's a good time to let's just say propose this. I'm going to say George Pickens could be had by some people, depending on what league you're in. There's a lot of people out there that don't believe that Justin Fields can really put up big passing numbers and he can't really feed George Pickens. A lot of people think he doesn't play quarterback well enough to get George Pickens the ball. You're one of those people that fall into that category, or you think somebody in any league that you're playing in thinks that same thing, then George Pickens is gettable. Depending on where you're playing, depending on what league you're in, depending on who owns him. But George Pickens right now is a good time to get him. I would propose it. If I didn't have him on my team, I'd be proposing a trade for him.
Yeah.
Logic makes sense. Does the logic make sense to you?
It does. I'm just on the other side of the logic. I don't. There's things that I believe. Like it's so weird. So I believe that Justin Fields he'll probably put up a consistent 21 points as a fantasy football quarterback. Generally does, but it has a lot more to do with his ability on the ground than it does with his ability to put the ball in the sky. So that being said, I would normally think that George Pickens would be hurting as a wide receiver. Like I know he's not far outside the top 10 here. Maybe I'm wrong.
Talking about George Pickens?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he's not put up a whole lot of numbers, man. He got like 29 this week, got like 90 last week, if that. I don't even know if he got that many.
9?
Like 90 last week or something like that. I can't remember his numbers, but he's barely over 100 yards receiving so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't go aiming at that George Pickens situation. That's just me. And again, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the top wide receivers in the league. He's not in the top 30. I wouldn't be aiming for a GP. Like I would definitely be aiming for a Justin Fields though if you've got a shaky backup quarterback, or definitely if you're in a SuperFlex league, by all means. But yeah, I don't know if I can trust any wide receiver with a Steelers jersey on this season. If there is one, his name is George Pickens though.
All right. Well, Mr. Vengeance had his question for you if you want to read that out.
Mr. Vengeance. Trade Kamara, Moore, and Darnold for Kelsey, Stevenson, Carr, and Brian Thomas Jr.?
I think he... Well, by the way, welcome, Mr. Vengeance, for coming over from Twitch. Man, welcome.
Yeah, man.
On you guys, any of you guys that are new, man, please subscribe to the channel. We would definitely can definitely use your support. I think it's reading okay. Trade Kamara and Moore.
Trade Kamara, Moore, and Darnold
for
Kelsey, Stevenson, Carr, and Brian Thomas Jr. So, like, Ramondre Stevenson, absolutely do this, bro. Are you kidding me? Somebody pitched this trade to you, Mr. Vengeance? Whoa. Reek vengeance, Mr. Vengeance. Straight up and down.
Well, check out Christian Reyes, man, what he just did. Hey, by the way, shout out Christian Reyes. Hope you subscribe to the channel. If not, man, please do so. It's free. Christian Reyes says he just traded away ATN for Shaheed and Kamara. Holy crap. How did you do that?
Well, wait a minute.
He got rid of two for one. He traded
away Trevor. I mean,
no, yeah. Hey, what's up, dude? Yo, dude's back.
What's up, baby? Yeah, running a little late, running on due time.
Kamara and Shaheed. How'd you do that?
No, he traded ETN and Shaheed for Kamara, which, in my opinion, is not a good choice there. Shaheed is a weapon that you want on your team.
Yeah,
I think Kamara is like 41 years old now or something.
Don't be coming in here pooping on this trade.
Look, dude. Like, say what you will about Alvin Kamara.
My team is terrible.
You know what I mean? So say what you want about Alvin Kamara, but he's leading the league as a running back right now. He'll continue to put up ridiculous running back numbers. The Jacksonville Jaguars offense has really been hurting, but mostly by way of Trevor Lawrence. Where's Travis Etienne on this list here? Let me just get back to my list. Where's Travis Etienne on the running back list?
Did I hear that he got nicked up?
Hey, Christian, you ever hear of a joke, brother?
So Travis Etienne right now is running back 23, which ain't terrible.
Also, having a running back that's almost 30 ain't a flex.
Well, might be a flex for Alvin Kamara if he's almost 30, because again, he's putting the numbers he's putting up are crazy.
As long as they beat up on bad teams every week, yeah, sure. They've gotten a pretty easy 2 weeks so far. Wait until they face San Francisco. or Tampa.
All right. I'm calling. I'm making a call to your butler right now to keep the damn coffee away from Nick.
It ain't coffee. Oh man,
that's just me, baby.
That's just a dude, yo. That's just a dude. Hey man, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have made that trade. I don't expect huge numbers from Travis Etienne. Like, don't get me wrong, but I do expect huge numbers from Shaheed.
He's going to figure large in that passing attack.
Yes, Christian, the Cowboys do suck.
Well, like
also the Vikings are a playoff team. Don't sleep on them.
Hey, now, dude, now you're just that's just blasphemy.
It ain't blasphemy. You saw what they did to the Niners. They made them their bitches.
Whoa.
All right, now
dude's coming in hot. I mean, look, I did say this was the end of the Niners era this season, and I also feel like it's going to be the end of the Buffalo Bills era in the AFC. But yeah, with the injuries that are bound to happen over in San Francisco. Speaking of which, Deebo Samuel's down too.
Oh yeah.
So that just came out today.
Do you know how many weeks? Is it?
I don't. That came out today. There'll be more details on how long he will be out, but he's gone down and he didn't practice today either. But yeah, I'm not.
I got a good question for you kids, and just outside of Josh Jacobs, do you think there's anybody that may have had any other the backup Green Bay running back on the roster?
Say again.
The backup in Green Bay. So Josh Jacobs is a starter. They ran the ball like 56 times. Josh Jacobs didn't get all those carries. 56, 58 times. I can't remember, but that's until Jordan Love is ready to go. I don't see that philosophy changing a bunch.
Who's the backup?
That's why I'm talking to you. You the fantasy guy. I want to know.
I don't even know. Let's find out who the backup is in Green Bay. You're right. Like, they're going to be running the rock.
Shout out to you, Captain.
Oh, Marshawn Lloyd's hurt too. That's who it's supposed to be.
Now this is a good trade right here.
What do you got, Captain? Huge fan of the show. Already a sub. Love it. Just sold Flowers and Worthy for Bowers. Oh, the Worthy though. I know pretty bold, but I feel that he's a better version of 2023 Laporta. Opinions. I have Kyle Pitts.
I would agree with Captain here.
How the hell I feel about that one, man?
I'm sorry.
The AFC West has a new dynamic tight end, and his name is Brock Bowers. Move over, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, very. Couldn't have said it better, dude. Couldn't have said it better. I don't know. Flowers and Worthy, bro. Like, that's.
I know. I don't know how to freaking feel about that.
You know what I mean? You really gut punch your wide receiver core. I'm just hoping you got two other guys there and it's not a problem.
I don't think it's that bad.
Worthy is going nowhere but up, especially given the fact
his route tree down. Absolutely, but
Kelce's not. You know what I mean? Kelce's not been playing the way he usually has been. A lot of that's going to Worthy. So I can see Worthy really establishing himself as a major threat in the Kansas City offense over the course of the next 6 games. That's my thoughts there, but it's like still not the craziest trade in the world. Like man, I don't know. All I know is that
one thing I would say this though, Kedz, to Captain's point, and we would know this better than most people because we're Bears fans and we know Luke Getsy. He's got a tight end friendly offense.
There's no question. So none of this is in question of the Brock Bowers portion of this trade. Like, get Brock Bowers. He's that kid. He will definitely pan out for you. You know, the question is at what cost. And what he's really saying to me right now is he's rostering Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts ain't getting the job done, which unfortunately was sort of par for the course. Like, we all kind of knew. To be honest with you, I looked at this season with Kyle Pitts. I haven't rostered him this season, but I looked at this season in a few mock drafts before things went live. And you look at the Atlanta case scenario, they got a brand new quarterback over there. He's pretty solid. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, like the wide receiver core looks pretty decent. The running back situation is great. The offensive line isn't terrible. You'd think some things would be happening with Kyle Pitts out there, and it just hasn't translated yet.
You know what, kids? This guy reminds me a lot of O.J. McDuffie when he was coming out of Alabama. All kinds of athleticism and upside to him. He got in the league and he was all cattle. I mean, all hat, no cattle, man. He brought nothing to the table. If he's on a roster, he's probably third on a depth chart or something like that. I thought that I seen signs that this guy would be like that too, man. It doesn't surprise me he's not putting up numbers.
It surprises me because he's a matchup nightmare. Like, he just is.
He's not getting it done though. I mean,
he's not.
Years and not done anything.
He's not.
Pitts ain't doing jack.
I picked him up last season early, thinking, they're gonna feed him the rock because it's either him or it's Drake London, and the rookie's got to grow. So they're gonna use this guy. They didn't use him at all. I don't know what was going on, but I guess let me rephrase. So I was gonna say I guess it should have became the B. John Robinson show, but it didn't become that either. So I really don't know what the heck's going on in Atlanta. But let me say this. I have a feeling things are about to shift over there, not necessarily for Kyle Pitts, but for Drake London and for Darnell Mooney. I think the arrow's pointing up.
I would agree.
There you go. Man, awesome kicking it with you guys. Coach Jay Hobbies just jumped in. What's up, Coach Jay? And Christian Reyes is saying that he's got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he also has Breece Hall on the squad. So the trade didn't really wreck his situation. So I can dig it. It's actually a pretty solid trade with those two guys on your squad starting, right? So well done, Christian. I like that trade in retrospect.
Nice. About done here. You got anything else?
Not much. Like, I do kind of want to look at one last thing here before we get out of here.
While you're looking for it, let me give a quick some Nomad Network.
Yeah.
Right quick. We of course we have Nomad Live coming tomorrow at 6 p.m. With myself, Sean, and Kedz. I don't know. I was talking to somebody about doing a guest spot, but I don't know if that's going to come through. But nevertheless, we'll be here tomorrow for Nomad Live to talk about the Houston game, of course, and then we'll talk about this upcoming game against Indy and our chances there. And we'll talk about all that. And plus, for you guys that are members and you super nomaniacs out there, we'll get the second show going of some extra sauce. And anybody that's not a member, and if you got $5 a month you're willing to spare and you're willing to support the channel, I am telling you guys right now, you don't know what a good time we had unless you were there. You just don't know how much fun we had in that show. So looking forward to that tomorrow. We're going to have a good time again. Just letting you guys know you're missing out on a good time on that show. So if you got an extra $4.99 a month you could spare, we can surely use your support. Plus, you're going to have a good-ass time when you come in there. So just want to put that out there.
Yes, sir. All right, so to round things out, I'm just going to go through the week 3 matchups. And, if you have any comments as far as the matchups are concerned, I'm really thinking about defenses here and how they're going to square up matchup on matchup. All right, so we'll start out with the Patriots versus the New York Jets. Jets are favored in this situation. I I think this will be a good defensive battle for the Jets. Next, we've got the Giants versus Cleveland Browns. I think Browns defense, again, Browns are favored. I think Browns defense will be a solid look this week. Denver Broncos versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are doing great things in the NFL right now against 6-point favorites. I think, again, if you're looking at a defense, that Denver Broncos offense hasn't been doing fantastic stuff either. So great look at Tampa Bay this week. Next up, my Chicago Bears, Nomads Chicago Bears versus the Indianapolis Colts. This will be a defensive matchup across the board. I would take either one of these teams by way of defense. The Colts are 2-point favorites in this matchup. The Green Bay Packers versus the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee's favored by 3. I think that's.
Can I interrupt real quick? Did you hear about DeForest Buckner?
No, he's out.
He's on IR for 4 weeks.
Ooh, they're in trouble. They'll just slide.
Bears, baby.
They'll slide number 90 over to play 3-tech because he plays a versatile spot too. But
however, that means more opportunity for my homie Eric Johnson, number 93. Shout out to Eric Johnson.
Okay. All right, so no DeForest Buckner. Things might get a little bit more interesting here this week. It's a Matt Eberflus revenge game? Is that what this is?
I don't know what you want to call it.
Well, that's what I'm going to call it. Because
Matt Eberflus get your shit back on track game.
Yeah, I kind of want to call it that as well. But yeah, I mean, geez. Matt Eberflus revenge game. If you're asking me, I say Bears, but I'll be a realist here and say Bears. Anyhow, Green Bay Packers versus Tennessee Titans. Tennessee's favored by 3. Tennessee defense was disgusting last week against the Chicago Bears. I think they're going to give the Green Bay Packers a run for their money. 2 weeks ago. Anyhow, I think they're going to give the Packers a run for their money. I would actually grab Tennessee's defense in this situation, to be frank with you. Although the Green Bay Packers defense is really good, I'm just not so sure the offense will be as good this week as it was the previous week against this defense. Philadelphia Eagles versus the New Orleans Saints. I don't even know what you do with this.
What's the matchup?
Philadelphia Eagles versus the New Orleans Saints.
Ooh.
Yeah. New Orleans Saints are favored by 2.
Brown's hurt. I don't know how long he's out.
That's the Saints, baby. The Eagles' defense is Swiss cheese right now.
You know what? I think the dude has it on this one. I'm rolling with the dude. New Orleans Saints are favored by 2. I think New Orleans pulls this out. I would actually take the New Orleans Saints defense in this scenario.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson has been getting burned every single week. So, yeah. There's that.
He's my least favorite cornerback in the league. I just want to put that out there for anyone who's listening. What's up, Katrina? Big shout out to you. We've also got the Los Angeles Chargers facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh is favored by 2. I think the Steelers lose this game. I don't know which one of these two defenses I favor, to be frank. I think these are both pretty sound defenses. Pittsburgh might be the more sound of the two. Man. Look, I would pick Pittsburgh defense in this contest. I would pick Los Angeles Chargers to win the contest, though.
It's gonna be a
next up.
Affair.
Say what?
It's going to be a nose-busting affair. Both of them going to play physical football, man.
Absolutely. Tough, hard-nosed football, physical football, great defense. And again, I think I lean towards the Chargers because of their offensive capability with Justin Herbert in the gang. Houston Texans versus Minnesota Vikings. Texans are favored by 2.5 points. Here comes the dude. Oh, okay, maybe not. I thought he was going to come flying in here saying that the Minnesota Vikings are a playoff team, and I'm not having it or hearing it. But
I know you're not having it. We're Bears fans. We don't want to hear that.
See? That's what's up. That's what's up.
I'm just very objective.
Well, I object to all good things happening in Minnesota. That being said, Houston Texans here, in my opinion, played a great game of football against a very defensive squad last week, and they were able to prevail. They are actually a playoff caliber team. I think the actual playoff caliber team wins out in this contest. Next up, we've got Carolina Panthers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, Raiders are 2-0. Carolina Panthers are 0-2. They just benched rookie quarterback Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton. And the only way in God's green earth that they win this contest is if Andy Dalton turns into a quarterback. So that's possible. Stranger things have happened. Wide receiver core exists. They're pretty decent. I like Xavier Legette on an upset. Maybe the Carolina Panthers pull this out. I'm still rolling with the Las Vegas Raiders on this one. So 5.5 points ahead. No reason for me not to roll with them. Miami Dolphins versus the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks are favored by 5.5 points, mainly because we've got a quarterback situation. I'm going to have to lean towards the Seattle Seahawks strictly due to the fact that Tua Tagovailoa has some doctors to see. Next up, we've got San Francisco 49ers, 7-point favorites versus the Los Angeles Rams. Similar conversation, except as you know, in this case, instead of it being the quarterback, it's both the wide receivers. So, man, I actually can't really. I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to lose this game too. 7 points favored. This is a great bet. Just putting it out there. This is a great bet. Deebo Samuel's hurt. San Francisco hasn't really looked like San Francisco of the last season. Christian McCaffrey's out. Brock Purdy spent a fair amount of time on his butt this weekend. I don't know, but I might lean Matthew Stafford and the running backs here over San Francisco this week. Divisional rivalry? Yeah, man. I'm leaning towards the Los Angeles Rams big time. And I'm going to mark that one down for later on. I'm going to place a bet on that one for sure. Detroit Lions, 3-point favorites over the Arizona Cardinals. Where's Don Burr at? No love for Don and no love for the Detroit Lions. Under normal pretenses, I think the Detroit Lions would win this game. I have a strange feeling the Arizona Cardinals, simply because they're on an upswing, come out taking this opportunity and win. Relatively close here, 3-point favorites for the Detroit Lions. In many cases, I can also see the Detroit Lions winning this game. If I'm picking a defense here, though, I'm picking the Detroit Lions defense.
Can I throw 2 cents in that one? And
you can.
Something to take note of is, for a couple of years now, the Cardinals, one of their cardinal sins is not being able to get to the quarterback and not getting a pass rush. Last couple of weeks, they've been able to get a pass rush. And guess who is standing back there as a statue and can't move very well? And when he gets hit and gets a little bit of pressure, he gives that ball up. Talking about Jared
Goff. Well, there's that. There's also the fact that, man, I hate to talk about Detroit Lions this long. I'm just saying. There's also the fact that Aiden Hutchinson's been playing like his hair's on fire too. Right, so I don't want to discredit that or discount that. That kid's doing special stuff out there right now, defensively, and I think it's going to be a really interesting view, with his to watch his ability to keep up with Kyler Murray on the run. So we'll see how that pans out. But again, I am leaning Arizona Cardinals this time, mainly because of the fact that they're against the Detroit Lions.
I think, and also Detroit got a little bit nicked up. I want to say they lost a linebacker, maybe a key defensive lineman. I'm not sure, but I keep an eye on their injury report. If you're in that conversation about wanting to put some money on that game, there's some nuance to that.
So this is an interesting game coming up here. So Baltimore Ravens, 1-point favorite versus the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know what you do with this one here. So Ravens defense is the defense that I would probably take in this contest. I also kind of feel like the Dallas Cowboys will probably win this football game. This will be a great game to watch. Terrible game to put money on. If you're betting, keep your money in your jeans. I'm going to lean towards Dallas. I'm going to lean Dallas for the win.
I'm going to say this. I know how Roquan Smith is. Of course, he's been in Chicago, and I'm a Bears fan. But Roquan Smith ain't taking them 2 losses laying down. I'm telling you, the Ravens will – I'm just going to say they're going to redeem themselves. If I was a betting man, I'd take money on the Ravens in this one.
See, that's for almost the exact same reason as why I went with the Cowboys, because Cowboys got beat up last week.
But I think that's a trend, though. I don't think the Ravens. So? I think the Ravens have lost games because they were in tough matchups. But I think when the Cowboys get beat like that convincingly, there's something internally not right with that team.
Exactly.
All right, so you've made me think twice about this. I will
the downfall of Dallas is going to be fantastic.
I will call just because it was a loss to the Raiders. I will call a Ravens win on this one. So Ravens win over Dallas. That's my take there. Next up, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Atlanta Falcons. 3.5-point favorite, Kansas City Chiefs. Almost goes without saying who I'll take in this matchup. Kansas City defense, Kansas City Chiefs. Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo all day. Buffalo's favored 5 points. I definitely would go with Buffalo all day in this particular contest. Buffalo defense too. Washington Commanders versus the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football to round out Week 3. I think this one is almost as easy as the last one, and I will go steadfast with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they eat the Washington Commanders lunch. They're favored by 8 points on Monday night. Man, they really got to do something about these matchups with Chris Collinsworth. I'm just saying. They got to get him. I guess he can, I guess he can talk about Joe Burrow for 3 hours. Anyways, just goes to show how much I love Chris Collinsworth.
Look for a letdown with that team.
A letdown?
Because they always show up to play Kansas City. Trust me. I don't care what the records are. When they see Kansas City, they're going to show up and give you their best game. But watch out for the air to come out of the balloon this next matchup.
You're talking about Kansas City and Atlanta?
Whoever Cincinnati's playing.
Cincinnati's playing the Washington Commanders.
And I'm not saying that Washington's going to beat them, but look for a little bit of letdown in that game if you want to take some personal little positional bets. And I don't know how they do that kind of thing, but, I see, let's just say they're not going to have such a good game, but they get the win. Just
no chance. They're 8 points favored. I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely. No chance I would go with Washington.
I'm not saying they're not going to get the win. I'm just saying a little bit of letdown from Cincinnati's play after being on such a high, having to play Kansas City. They're going, this is what they say, man. It's one of those trap games. One of those games you expect them to go in there and just walk all over a team. That's a trap game, bro.
Yeah, I don't think this is a trap game, man. That's just me. So they still lost the Kansas City game, just to put that out there. They went out there, played handsomely, put great numbers up, still lost. It's kind of par for the course for anybody who plays Kansas City in Kansas City. But I have a feeling here this is they're playing a team that's just on their way up. They're trying to feel their way out, trying to figure things out. I don't think the Washington Commanders are a playoff team this season by any stretch of the imagination, even just given their own division. So, those things being said, I think Washington Commanders have about another year before they can really challenge a perennial playoff team like the Cincinnati Bengals.
So say I didn't warn you.
All right, I'll remind you when my
get your check.
You know what I'm saying? I'll remind you when my winnings come in, man. I'll remind you. But anyways, I think that pretty much rounds it out for the week 3 NFL. Just give a couple of shout outs before we head on and off. Big shout outs to all of you guys for coming through, for your questions, for being interactive. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Katrina Pullen, Coach Jay, Eternal, King Booker, Christian Reyes, Aunt Mas. Yo, Aunt Mas, what's up? I miss your question, man. I'll get you next time, I promise. Captain Joking. Who else we got? The Nodge was with us for a little bit. Plankster showed up. George Play, Nick Watts, Camden. What's up, Camden? Thanks for coming through, brother. Patty Laura, Junior. What's up, Junior? Hey, man, I'm super stoked to see that we have a pretty solid following coming through, watching the show. And again, being interactive. Love chopping it up with you guys. Shout out to the SuperFlex, the SuperFlexers out there, the SuperFlexers out there. Big shout out to my guy, J2K Designs. Mad love to you for setting things up. Big love, as always, to the King of Pop from the Nomad Network. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to you as well, dude. Thanks for showing up and giving us your 2 cents on things as well. We always appreciate that. And as per normal, this has been a SuperFlex show. Thanks for coming through. Brought to you by Kedro Vision. And we're out.